Let's be honest, when Julius Malema travels, it's never just a trip, it's an event. The Commander-in-Chief of South Africa's economic freedom fighters, a man whose voice carries the weight of a protest rally and the precision of a political chess master, has turned his sights to West Africa. And as you might expect, the continent is sitting up and paying attention. This isn't your average diplomatic tour with polite handshakes and carefully worded communiques. No, this is Malema. His journey is a statement, a political pilgrimage that is sparking conversations from the bustling streets of Lagos to the corridors of power across the Sahel. It's a tour that promises to be less about sightseeing and more about paradigm shifting, challenging the old guards and amplifying the voices of a new, unapologetic African generation. On this day, August 22, 2025, as Malema steps onto West African soil, he brings with him more than just his signature red beret. He carries the aspirations of millions who see in him a champion for economic liberation and true African sovereignty. This visit is particularly significant because it bridges the historical and political divides, weaving a new thread of solidarity. People are watching not just to see what he says, but to feel the pulse of a movement that seems to be gaining momentum. It's about connecting ideologies, linking struggles, and forging alliances that could redefine the continent's relationship with itself and with the rest of the world. This is history in the making, one fiery speech at a time. The anticipation is palpable. Now you might be thinking, a lawyers' conference? That sounds like the kind of event where the most exciting thing to happen is someone objecting to the quality of the complimentary pastries. But hold on, because the Nigerian Bar Association just flipped the script. For their 2025 annual general conference, they didn't pick a quiet academic type to give the keynote address. They went for the political equivalent of a rock star. By inviting Julius Malema, the NBA has sent a clear message. Business as usual is over. Scheduled from August 22nd to 29th at the International Conference Center in Enugu, this gathering of legal minds isn't just about interpreting laws, it's about shaping the future of governance and society. The theme for this year's conference is Stand Out, Stand Tall, and who embodies that more than Juju himself? The organizers clearly wanted to inspire bold leadership, push for accountability, and spark innovation not just within the legal profession, but across the entire continent. Inviting Malema is a power move. It tells you that the legal eagles of Nigeria are ready to engage with the most pressing and often uncomfortable questions facing Africa. They are signaling a desire to move beyond theoretical debates and connect with the raw, unfiltered energy of grassroots political movements that are demanding fundamental change. This isn't just about law, it's about justice in its broadest, most transformative sense. Think about the significance of this. Nigeria is Africa's most populous nation, a giant in every sense of the word. Its legal community is one of the most influential on the continent. By giving Malema this platform, the NBA is acknowledging that the fight for a better Africa requires more than just courtroom victories. It requires a political and ideological awakening. Justice, equity, sovereignty are at the heart of the economic freedom message that Malema champions. They are creating a space where the language of law meets the language of liberation, and the potential for synergy is immense. This invitation is also a masterclass in relevance. In an age where young Africans are increasingly disconnected from traditional political structures, the NBA is making a conscious effort to bridge that gap. By welcoming Malema, the Nigerian Bar Association isn't just hosting a conference, it's curating a pivotal moment. Beyond the formal setting of the NBA conference, Malema's visit is animated by a profound sense of political kinship, particularly with a leader he hasn't even met in person on this trip, but whose spirit looms large, Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. This isn't just a casual endorsement, it's a deep, ideological alignment. Malema has been one of the most vocal international supporters of Traore, seeing in the young Burkinabe leader a kindred spirit in the fight for true African self-determination. It's a connection that transcends geography, a shared belief that Africa must chart its own course, free from the shadows of its former colonial masters and the manipulative games of global superpowers. This is Pan-Africanism in action, a 21st century version of the solidarity that defined the continent's independence movements. Malema's support is rooted in a shared diagnosis of Africa's problems: economic exploitation, political puppetry, a persistent neo-colonial structure that keeps the continent's riches flowing outwards. When Malema speaks of Traore, he speaks of a symbol of hope. What Traore represents is the awakening of a generation, he has declared, capturing the essence of this new wave of African leadership. This isn't about military coups in the abstract, it's about a generation saying enough is enough. It's about leaders who are willing to take radical steps to reclaim their nation's sovereignty, even if it means upsetting the established global order. For Malema, Traore is not just a president, he is the embodiment of a revolutionary promise. This alliance, though largely symbolic for now, is incredibly powerful. It represents a philosophical bridge between the Anglophone and Francophone worlds of Africa, often seen as operating in separate spheres, united by a common goal: to dismantle the systems that have kept Africa divided and dependent. Their shared platform is built on the pillars of anti-imperialism, resource sovereignty, and African solutions. It's a powerful message of unity that challenges the old colonial divide and rule strategy. So, who is this man, who has captured the imagination of Julius Malema? Captain Ibrahim Traoré is not your typical head of state. He became the world's youngest leader. He took power in October 2022, at just 34 years old. He represented a seismic generational shift. In a continent often led by men who were in power before the internet, Traore didn't rise through glad-handing or backroom deals. He emerged from the military. He was one of a group of young officers frustrated with the government's failure to stop a spiraling jihadist insurgency. They also rejected perceived subservience to foreign interests, especially France. His rise was swift and decisive. He led a coup that ousted Paul-Henri Sandaogo Damiba. Damiba had seized power just 8 months earlier. Traore promised a radical break with the past. He spoke directly to the people, especially to the youth. He used a language they understood. He talked about national dignity, reclaiming Burkina Faso's sovereignty, fighting the country's battles on its own terms. He appeared in military fatigues and a red beret. That look drew comparisons to Thomas Sankara. Sankara, revered leader, assassinated in 1987. Traore's vision centers on self-reliance. He criticized the long-standing French military presence in the Sahel. He moved to sever those ties and demanded French troops leave. That move sent shockwaves through Paris and other Western capitals. Instead of looking to Europe, Traore turned inward. Promoting grassroots participation and mobilizing citizen volunteer defense groups, he champions governance rooted in local culture and priorities. Captain Traore's revolution isn't just about military strategy. It's about who benefits from Burkina Faso's immense natural wealth. For decades, the nation's gold was largely exploited by foreign multinationals. Other mineral resources were exploited too, while the country saw only a fraction of the profits. Traore's government has decided to end this arrangement. In a move echoing Malema's economic freedom fighters, Burkina Faso has embarked on ambitious resource nationalization. This is the economic muscle behind the political vision. It's about ensuring the soil's riches benefit the sons and daughters of the soil. In early 2025, the government accelerated a state-led takeover of foreign-owned mining assets. This wasn't half-hearted. Prime Minister Jean-Emmanuel Ouedraogo announced plans to expand state control over all industrial mines. The message was unequivocal. The era of foreign exploitation is over. The government is building new state-owned refineries and implementing policies requiring mining companies to contribute more to local development funds. This challenges the neo-colonial economic model that left countries resource-rich but cash-poor. It's a bold gamble, Traore says, is essential for the nation's survival and prosperity. The results are visible. The state is collecting and controlling its own gold, cutting out foreign middlemen. In 2024, state-controlled entities collected over 8 tons of gold. Momentum grew. In the first quarter of 2025, the state collected 11 tons. This isn't just gold, it's financial independence. It's capital that can be used to fund the military, build schools, pave roads, provide essential services for the people of Burkina Faso, all without having to go cap in hand to the IMF or the World Bank. The era of foreign exploitation is being challenged. This policy of resource nationalism is precisely why Julius Malema sees Traore as a fellow traveler on the road to economic freedom. It is the practical application of the EFF's founding principle that mineral wealth must belong to the people. Traore's Burkina Faso is a real-world test case for policies Malema has advocated in South Africa for over a decade. It's a demonstration that an African nation can stand up to powerful global interests and reclaim control of its economy. The move is being watched across the continent, inspiring others to question who truly profits from natural resources. A new economic dawn, if it can deliver for the people. Captain Traore's vision of sovereignty isn't confined to the borders of Burkina Faso. He understands the challenges are regional, especially the threat of terrorism, and require a united front. This gave birth to the Alliance of Sahel States, the AES. Flags of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger flying together. Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, led by military governments, pivoting away from their former colonial ruler, France. This alliance is more than a piece of paper. It's a mutual defense pact, a security coalition forged from shared struggle and a desire for self-determination. Core principle: African problems require African-led solutions. For years, the international community, France and the United States, poured billions into Sahel interventions with limited success. The security situation often worsened. AES leaders chose a new approach: prioritize national interests and rely on the courage and commitment of their own soldiers. A direct rejection of foreign military dependence and an assertion of regional autonomy. Thank you for your help, but we'll take it from here. A significant geopolitical shift in West Africa. A new bloc ideologically aligned, committed to supporting one another against internal threats and external pressures. Western powers unnerved as influence wanes. For millions in the Sahel, AES means dignity and strength, practical Pan-Africanism, action on the ground. The AES resonates with Julius Malema's worldview. It aligns with his call for a united, self-reliant Africa. The AES is a living example of solidarity over submission. Malema carries this message to Nigeria and beyond. Unity is not just a lofty ideal, but a strategic necessity for survival and progress. The alliance is a bold experiment, a possible blueprint for continental integration. Practical solidarity. The work begins on the ground. A message: stand together or remain divided. When Julius Malema speaks, he doesn't mince words. He doesn't use the carefully calibrated language of a career diplomat. He speaks with the raw passion of a revolutionary. His statements on Captain Traore and on African sovereignty have been among his most powerful. His message is a defiant roar aimed at the West, particularly the United States. "America must never tell us what to do," he thundered. That sentiment finds fertile ground across a continent weary of foreign dictates. This isn't just rhetoric, it's a declaration of independence from a neo-colonial mindset. His support for Traore is absolute and unambiguous. We stand with Captain Ibrahim Traoré. We stand with Traore because he stands for the unity of Africa. This frames Traore's actions as part of a continent-wide struggle for liberation. We are Traore. Traore is all of us. Borders dissolve, solidarity grows. He turns a Burkinabe issue into a Pan-African cause. Support for Traore becomes a litmus test for the continent's future. Malema's anti-imperialism doesn't only target the West. He warns against simplifying global politics. He defends China against what he calls American hypocrisy. "We must defend China for defying the USA," he said. He pointed to trade disputes and what he sees as American bullying on the world stage. This is nuanced, not blind allegiance to Beijing but strategic recognition of a multipolar world. Africa should leverage its position to forge alliances that serve its interests, not be a pawn in someone else's geopolitical chess game. He's also sharply critical of Donald Trump. Malema called Trump an enemy of himself and all of us. Find your voice, build your power, stop looking to foreign capitals for validation. The friction between Julius Malema and Donald Trump is not just a war of words, It once spilled over into the highest office in the world, the Oval Office. This bizarre episode shows just how much Malema's influence has reverberated globally, reaching the ears of the most powerful people on the planet. The story centers on one of Malema's most controversial practices, leading his supporters in singing the anti-apartheid struggle song Dubul Ibhunu, which translates to "Shoot the Boer." While Malema and his supporters argue it's a symbolic protest against a system of oppression, not a literal command, it has caused immense controversy. This controversy reached a surreal peak during a meeting between then-President Donald Trump and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the White House. Trump, who had been influenced by right-wing media reports about alleged violence against white farmers in South Africa, decided to confront Ramaphosa on the issue. In a move that sounds like political satire, Trump actually played a video of Malema chanting the song for President Ramaphosa right there in the Oval Office. Imagine the scene, two heads of state in the most famous office in the world watching a YouTube clip of a South African opposition leader. This moment was extraordinary for several reasons. Firstly, it demonstrated the extent to which Malema, an opposition leader, could set the international agenda and command the attention of a U.S. president. Trump's actions, intended to put Ramaphosa on the spot, inadvertently elevated Malema's status, confirming him as a political figure of global consequence. It showed that his message, however controversial, was cutting through the noise and forcing world leaders to react. It was a clear sign that Malema's brand of radical politics could not be dismissed as mere local theatrics. Secondly, the incident highlighted the deep ideological chasm between Malema's worldview and that of Western conservative leaders like Trump. For Trump and his base, the song was literal proof of a threat against a white minority. For Malema and his followers, it was a symbolic act of defiance against the lingering economic legacy of apartheid. The White House screening became a global flashpoint, a moment where two completely different interpretations of history, power, and justice collided on the world stage. It underscored just how potent and polarizing Malema's politics are, and why his alliance with other defiant leaders like Traore is seen as so significant, and to some, so threatening. It showed how words and songs can become flashpoints in geopolitics, an alliance that makes some hopeful and others uneasy. The reverberations are still being felt, and the world is still deciding what to make of it. The conversation has changed. So, what does all of this mean for the future? Malema's high-profile visit to West Africa, his keynote address to Nigeria's legal elite, and his powerful alliance with Capt. Traore are not isolated events. They are interconnected pieces of a much larger puzzle, signaling the dawn of a new, more assertive and unapologetic era of Pan-Africanism. This isn't the Pan-Africanism of the 1960s. This is a 21st century evolution, a movement laser-focused on securing economic independence and true mental liberation from centuries of colonial and neo-colonial influence. It's a movement driven by a generation that is connected, informed, and impatient for change. The alliance between figures like Malema and Traore represents a powerful new axis of thought and action on the continent. They are challenging the old guard within Africa and outside of it. They are questioning long-standing military agreements, demanding the return of their continent's resources, and forging new alliances based on shared principles of sovereignty and mutual respect. This is a direct threat to the established world order, which has long benefited from a divided and compliant Africa. The message they are sending is revolutionary. Africa will no longer be a passive player in global affairs, but an active shaper of its own destiny. Of course, this path is fraught with challenges. The forces aligned against this new wave of Pan-Africanism are formidable. Global economic powers, multinational corporations, and entrenched local elites all have a vested interest in maintaining the status quo. The governments in Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger face immense security threats and intense international pressure. But what this new movement has on its side is the power of an idea whose time has come. It has the energy and support of millions of young Africans who are tired of the old narrative of poverty and corruption. Ultimately, the future of this movement will depend on its ability to deliver tangible results for the people. It's about translating fiery speeches and symbolic gestures into real improvements in security, education, healthcare, and economic opportunity. The alliance between Malema and Traore is more than just a political headline. It's a beacon of possibility. Whether this moment becomes a true turning point, the conversation has changed and the future will be decided by Africans.